On the bookshelf tonight is this neat little RCA stereo system featuring a CD player, a radio tuner, an amplifier, and a cassette deck. I got it for $9.99 at the thrift store. It did not come with the original speakers, but I happen to have these RCA speakers which are a perfect match for it, and are probably a lot better than what it originally came with because these are rated at 40 watts per channel, and this thing is definitely not putting out that kind of power.
Maybe you can't travel all around the world, but on New Sounds we do the next best thing, bringing you music from near and far. There's a whole world of music out there, and New Sounds explores it every night. I'm John Schaefer. Join me tonight at 11 on 93.9 FM or at wnyc.org.
This is Freakonomics.
That's obviously the FM radio tuner. Has a red FM stereo indicator, and if I put it in mono mode, it goes out.
It's an amazing piece of work, so well done.
Those balls playing hard.
And up to date.
The most music all weekend.
Magic 98.3.
So the FM tuner works fine. Now let's try AM.
Liberty Dog that children can take with them to all these different activities.
Don't wonder if you are. Fly to shallow right. It's going to hang up for Marte, and he makes. We got tonight, babe. Why don't you stay?
Sounds pretty good on AM too. Now let's try a cassette tape. Nice soft eject.
In heaven there is no beer. That's why we drink it here. And when we're gone from here, our friends will be drinking all the beer.
Has this bass boost feature. Let me try that out.
That's why we drink it here.
Seems like it boosts both the treble and the bass.
Our friends will be drinking all the beer.
Now let me try a CD. It lights up CD in the little display there. It's only 2 digits, so it doesn't display time. It only displays the track number. The drawer does open. Put in my disc. It's not closing all the way, so maybe it needs a new belt. I can hear a motor running, so it's probably slipping on that belt that opens and closes the drawer. Typical problem with older CD players, so that's going to need repair. The CD player is very basic, but it does have shuffle and repeat features. It has a typical analog tuning dial for AM and FM, function selector for CD tape and tuner, band selector for AM, FM, and FM stereo, a bass boost feature, volume tuning, power switch with a power indicator LED. And down here is the headphone jack and the single cassette deck, which advertises automatic recording level control, auto stop, and cushion eject. Yes, it does have a nice soft eject. Has your standard mechanical piano key controls. It definitely could use a cleaning in there. I noticed it has a permanent magnet erase head, so that's a little bit of a letdown. But it does have full auto stop, including in fast forward and in rewind. But I noticed the auto stop on rewind works when there's no tape in there. But when you do put a tape in there and try to rewind it, it does not auto stop, so that could be a sign that the belts are getting weak, and when it reaches the end, it's just slipping on the pulley. So it looks like this stereo system could be fully working if I just replace a couple belts. The door is removable to give you better access to clean the heads. Although now that I see it, there's almost no point to removing it because it doesn't really give you that much better access. It does open up some room to adjust the azimuth of the head if you need to. The cabinet is all plastic, which is a bit cheap. On the back we have spring terminals for the speakers, which is a little bit unexpected for such a low-end stereo system. Plus it's made by RCA, so you would think it would have RCA speaker jacks, but there are no RCA jacks anywhere on this because it does not have an aux input, which is one letdown with this system. Although there are ways around that, which I'll demonstrate later. Also has a permanently attached FM antenna. It's difficult to read this text that's embossed into the plastic, but it's rated for 8 ohm speakers. It was manufactured in December 1994, and it's the RCA model RP8520A, which I can't really find any information about, except that for some reason QVC still has it listed on their website, although obviously it's no longer available. It's a bit overkill, but this is the only screwdriver I have that's long enough to reach those deeply recessed screws that are holding this thing together. There it is, cracked open. And one of the first things I noticed is that instead of using a tuning dial string, the radio tuner is run by these plastic gears, and the tuning dial indicator is driven by this long piece of plastic which has gear teeth on it, and the whole thing is slathered in grease. So I guess it works, but it just looks kind of cheap, and sooner or later all this grease is going to get sticky and need to be cleaned out and replaced, but at least for now it's still working. And there you can see the built-in ferrite bar loop stick antenna for AM, and the FM wire antenna attaches here. Otherwise nothing too special with the radio tuner circuitry. Here's the cassette tape mechanism, and as you can see by that sticker with their logo on it, it's a genuine Tanishin mechanism, has a metal flywheel, and it has a genuine Mabuchi motor, so this thing could have pretty decent quality, at least compared to the cheap knockoffs they're making these days. There's the recording circuitry for the cassette deck, and that's the AC bias oscillator coil, so even though it has a permanent magnet erase head, it does have AC bias recording. And this belt definitely looks a bit loose. Here's what happens when I rewind a tape and it reaches the end. You can see it's slipping, so it definitely needs a new belt. Here's the belt which opens and closes the CD drawer, and it's definitely slipping as well because that motor is still running. See, I just stalled it, so that belt needs to be replaced. The question is, how do I get to it? I think this thing should unclip. Yeah, that side unclipped. And what about the other side? Aha! I think I managed to pop the whole thing off. They put the belt under a protective clear plastic window. Question is, can I pop that off as well? Now the question is, do I have access to replace that belt? Because it has to go on top of this gear. I think there's latches you can release to totally remove the door. So let me try that. Okay, the door is off. The tray, I should say. But does that improve anything in terms of replacing that belt? This thing is in the way. Ah, well that helps, but we still don't quite have access to that belt. But I think I should be able to just pry up this gear enough to slip the belt underneath it. But there's still... This post here is going to get in the way of that. Okay, I managed to pop off that gear. So now, question is, do I have enough wiggle room to get this thing out of here? Yep. And there's the belt. Now, good luck getting that all back together when I put the new belt on. Okay, with some prying, I was able to get that gear back on with a new belt attached to it. I didn't get it on camera because my fingers would have just been in the way the whole time anyway. Now I just need to hook it on the motor pulley. And hopefully that's all going to work. I'm not going to bother reinstalling this clear plastic thing. I don't see the point of it. I managed to reinstall the tray. Can't forget to put this thing back on. Now the moment of truth. Will this thing play a CD? I don't have any speakers hooked up at the moment, but I can at least see if it tries to work. So, close the drawer. It's spinning up. Now it says track 1. Track 2. How many tracks are on this CD? There are 12 tracks. Track 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It seems to be working. And that's returning to track 1. And that's stop. And that's eject. So, I believe I fixed the CD player. Now we can finally listen to this thing play a CD, and I'll give you a direct hookup sample of what that sounds like.
Hanukkah, Festival of Lights. By spirit, not by might. We're gonna be irate-ites. We're gonna stand up for our rights. Got to be free, you and me. You gotta
Be all that you can be. Join the Maccabee army. Be all that you can be. Join and become a Maccabee. Holiday of rededication, Hanukkah illumination, shedding light across the nation. Stand up for your rights, don't give up the fight. You gotta be all that you can be.
Thankfully, replacing the belts on the cassette mechanism is going to be a lot more straightforward. You just have to remove this one screw holding the motor in place, and then you'll have easy access to the belts. The new belts are installed, and now the auto stop works properly when rewinding. The wow and flutter is pretty much what I expected, around 0.12 to 0.13% WRMS, and hovering around 0.2% peak. And the speed is close enough to correct I wouldn't bother adjusting it. It's around 3011 to 3012. It's supposed to be 3000, so that's within about 0.5%. That's close enough to the correct speed you wouldn't notice any difference. Now I'm ready to put this thing back together. There are plastic guides in the case to help you align the circuit board with where it's supposed to go. Now it's properly aligned. And now it fits together, and just gotta screw it back together with that extra long screwdriver. It's now all back together and sounding great.
It's important to inhale through your mouth to make sure that enough oxygen reaches your hard-working muscles.
Anne Fernald took her tape recorder from that hospital and traveled all over the world recording parents as they talked to their very little babies. And it didn't matter whether the parents spoke a Romance language or a tone language. Everywhere she went, below the words, she heard consistently the same melodies.
I'll tell you something I think you'll understand. For the sake of sanitation, you better wash your hands. You better wash your hands. You better wash your hands.
I was really impressed with this thing's quality when recording from CD to cassette. The automatic level control seems to do a very good job, And even with that permanent magnet erase head, it doesn't have too much background hiss. So I'll give you a direct hookup sample of what that sounds like.
Spin, spin, spin. It's Mother Nature and Father Time come together and have a good time, 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 time. It's Hanukkah. Some call it ska, nuka. But I say, I love the original.
The Great Gatsby is the brilliant and strongly symbolic work of F. Scott Fitzgerald. In this great work of art, F. eloquently depicts the opulent lifestyle of upper-class America during the Roaring '20s. How great is the Great Gatsby? Judge for yourself.
Daisy and her husband Tom, who are both very rich, invite Daisy's cousin Nick, who's not so rich, over to East Egg, and everyone has a drink. The next day, Tom is tired of counting his money, so Tom and Nick drive to George's garage to pick up George's wife, Myrtle, who is also Tom's mistress, so they can all go to New York for a party. But Tom gets into a fight with Myrtle. Myrtle steps out of line. Tom breaks her nose. Everybody has a drink. Then Gatsby, the racketeering romantic with a sensational smile, who has amassed amazing amounts of cash in the hopes of winning back his darling Daisy, says, "Old sport, let's have some drinks at my place." Next, Nick arranges a meeting between Daisy and Gatsby. Daisy arrives in a white car. She wears a white dress. She sees all the white flowers. She sees Gatsby, who's wearing white. She's overcome. She says, "White, my favorite color. Let's have a drink." Before you know it, Daisy and Gatsby are spending many lazy hungover afternoons together. Next, it's time for another mindless dinner party. Everyone is rich, everyone is bored, so they drive to New York. Tom drives Gatsby's car, Gatsby drives Tom's car. Tom grabs a bottle of whiskey, and they go to the Plaza Hotel. They have some drinks. Gatsby calls everyone old sport. The whole gang gets blitzed. On the way home, Daisy drives Gatsby's car. Daisy does 100 and runs over Myrtle. George wants revenge, so George gets out his gun. He walks around all night looking for the car that mashed Myrtle. George walks back to West Egg, finds the car at Gatsby's big white house, walks up the big white stairs, sees Gatsby in the big white pool, and he pulls the trigger. And that's the very last for Mr. J. Gatsby.
I promised to show you how you can add an aux input to this stereo system, and here it is, a car cassette adapter. You may have a little bit of trouble sneaking the cable out of the door, but otherwise there's no reason why you can't use this with any other kind of cassette player. You just put it in the cassette player, hit play, and then you're ready to connect it to any line level audio source such as the preamp output of a turntable.
If I were a rich man, all day long I'd biddy-biddy-bum. If I were a wealthy man.
Look at the stuff this guy's got. Poster of Yentl, Fiddler on the Roof CD on the coffee table, autographed photo of Bette Midler. See where I'm going with this?
But the disadvantage of using one of these is that it's using your cassette deck, so if you want to record your vinyl to tape, you're out of luck unless you use one of these, an FM radio transmitter, such as this Soundfeeder SF120. It runs on a single AA battery, has a line level audio input, a tuning dial, a couple different tuning ranges selectable. You just plug in your audio source, adjust the tuning to the spot on the dial you want, and pull out this little antenna, and then you can put in a tape and record it to tape from the radio. In case you can't tell, I really like this little stereo system. Once I got those belts for the CD player and cassette recorder sorted out, its performance has exceeded my expectations. It's a really neat little system for listening to the radio, playing tapes, and playing CDs. It'd be perfect for a bedroom or your workshop or whatever. It's proof that you don't need to have a big, fancy, expensive stereo system to have fun listening to and recording music.
You are about to experience samples of three-dimensional living sound. First, you will hear sound effects demonstrating how this new technology transports you into seemingly real environments. You will now hear this 3D living sound technology applied to a program of nature sounds that is available to you to help you create a more favorable sleep environment.